Hey guys, welcome back to Sleep Among Titans, where we drift through strange and quiet corners of the past, perfect for listening before you sleep. Tonight, however, we are handing the reins over to you. Your story begins now in the deep and silent hours before the dawn. You are not a warrior, or a queen, or a great philosopher. You are something far more specialized. You are standing in a silent, cavernous chamber, the air thick with the scent of aged sandalwood and old silk. Before you, laid out on a table of polished rosewood, is a single object, the ceremonial belt of the celestial monarch. Your first duty of the day is to ensure that the fine silk tassel on its enormous jade buckle is brushed exactly 72 times, in a clockwise motion. Not 71. That would be a sign of carelessness. Not 73. That would be presumptuous. 72. The fate of the entire empire may not depend on this single delicate task, but the monarch's mood before his morning tea certainly does. And as you are about to learn in this place, the two are very nearly the same thing. So take a slow, deep breath. Welcome to the Forbidden City. This isn't just a palace, it's your new place of work, your new home, your new universe. And there are a few rules you'll need to learn very quickly if you want to succeed. Let us begin your orientation with your most important lesson, the art of becoming a ghost with excellent posture. And you, dear listener, are exactly where you're meant to be. If your eyes are still open, welcome. If they're starting to close, that's perfect too. The story will wait. It always has. And if this night brings you calm, I'd love to know. Leave a whisper in the comments, or simply subscribe, leave a lantern lit so the next dream can find you. Your successful handling of the 72 tassels grants you a moment of quiet satisfaction. You have completed your first task without inciting an international incident or disturbing the delicate balance of the cosmos. This is a good start. Now, let us proceed with your orientation. Your official title is Junior Attendant of the Inner Court, but this tells you almost nothing about your actual duties. Think of your primary job function in simpler terms. You are to be a ghost with excellent posture. You have been selected for this role because you possess a unique and valuable skill set. You have the ability to exist within the most private and sensitive areas of the palace, the world of the empress, the consorts and the concubines, without posing a threat to the sanctity of the imperial bloodline. You were made, uniquely qualified, for this position through a rigorous and deeply personal screening process, which we need not dwell on. Suffice to say, you passed. Let's take a brief tour of your new workplace. The Forbidden City is divided into two main areas. The outer court is the grand public-facing executive wing. It's all vast stone plazas and enormous halls designed to make important people feel unimportant. You will rarely go there. Your entire world is the inner court, the heart of the palace. This is a much softer, more beautiful place full of winding garden paths, quiet pavilions, and lotus ponds. It is the secret garden of the empire where its most precious flowers, the women of the court, reside. It is also a place of intense, silent competition where every single flower is vying for a moment of the sun's attention. Your job is to move through this garden like a gentle breeze tending to its needs without ever disturbing a single petal. To do so, you must master your key performance indicators, or KPIs. Your performance will be judged on 3 core competencies. First, flawless temperature control. Whether it is the monarch's morning tea or the water for his evening bath, your ability to achieve and maintain the perfect temperature is paramount. Success in this metric is measured by the monarch's post-sip sigh of contentment, a sound you will learn to analyze with the precision of a master musician. Second, sonic discretion. The palace values silence above all else. Your goal is to achieve a personal sound profile somewhere between a falling cherry blossom and a passing thought. The rustle of your silk uniform should never exceed the decibel level of a deep sigh. You will learn to walk on polished marble without making a sound, a skill that involves more concentration than you can possibly imagine. Third, and most critical, total invisibility. This is the pinnacle of your art. Your goal is to anticipate needs before they are spoken, to deliver objects before they are requested, to be so seamlessly efficient that your presence is only noted in your absence. Success is when the monarch reaches for his favorite brush and finds it simply appearing in his hand as if by magic. You, Li Xin, are the magic. You are the silent, invisible engine that makes the palace run. This concludes your initial onboarding. The rest of your training will be, shall we say, on the job. Do not worry. The learning curve is steep, but most attendants learn to adapt. For now, just breathe. Feel the cool, still air in this chamber. Listen to the sound of your own quiet heartbeat. Let the immense, impossible scale of your new life settle around you. Your next lesson awaits, and it concerns a rather unexpected side effect of your new career, your newfound and surprisingly versatile vocal range. Of course, here is the next part of your story covering your newfound vocal talents and the immense pressure of a simple cup of tea. Progress 219 parts complete. Now writing parts 3 and 4. Sprasabrari. The low ambient hum of the palace continues a constant steady note beneath the narration. Your new life is a series of lessons in the art of submission. You learn to fold your personality into a tiny, neat square and tuck it away where no one can see it. But there are some changes you cannot hide. The most obvious of these is your voice. The rigorous screening process that qualified you for this role has left its mark, stripping the lower tones from your speech and leaving you with a voice that is smooth, high, and unnervingly clear. You think it makes you sound like a well-mannered flute. The palace, however, is about to find a more creative use for it. One afternoon, you are summoned by a senior attendant. This is never a good thing. A summons means you have either done something wrong or you are about to be asked to do something very, very strange. You are led in silence to the private garden of the Empress. She is seated in a porcelain pavilion looking out at a gilded cage that houses her most prized possession, a rare white-feathered songbird from the furthest southern jungles, a creature said to have a voice of unparalleled beauty. The problem, you learn, is that the priceless bird has been stubbornly silent for a week, and the Empress's mood has grown as gray as the winter sky. The senior attendant leans in his voice a low whisper. The court musicians have failed. The bird callers have failed. But the head physician's second cousin heard you speaking the other day, and he noted that your vocal pitch shares 3 harmonic overtones with the mournful call of the southern songbird. You stare at him, your mind utterly blank. You have no idea what to say. The Empress, he continues, would like you to encourage the bird. And that is how you find yourself in the most surreal situation of your life. You are instructed to kneel behind a large ornate planter, hiding you from the Empress's direct line of sight. And then you are told to sing, or rather, to chirp, to trill, to produce a series of high melodic notes meant to coax a multi-thousand-tail bird out of its depression. You take a deep breath, close your eyes, and do it. A clear liquid sound flows from your throat. It is beautiful. It is heartbreaking. And it is utterly, profoundly ridiculous. You feel the eyes of the Empress's attendants on your hiding place. For a long, agonizing minute, the only sound in the garden is your lonely artificial bird song. Then, from the gilded cage, a single tentative note answers you. You continue, and the bird answers again, this time more boldly. A delicate, complex melody unfolds between you, a eunuch hiding behind a pot, and a homesick tropical bird. You hear a soft, rustling sigh from the pavilion. It is the sound of the Empress, pleased. Your performance is a success. You have become, by imperial decree, the official understudy for a depressed bird. It is not the career path you envisioned, but in the Forbidden City, you learn to celebrate any victory, no matter how absurd. Your newfound talent as an avian impersonator earns you a sliver of favor, which translates to slightly less unpleasant duties for a few weeks. But this small comfort is fleeting. You are still first and foremost a personal attendant to the monarch, and that means you must face the most high-stakes, nerve-shredding trial of your day, every single day, the preparation of the morning tea. This is not simply a matter of boiling water. It is a sacred ritual, a 12-step ceremony where a single mistake can have consequences that ripple through the court. The process begins before dawn in a small dedicated chamber filled with the tools of your trade. A silver brazier that must be polished until it shines like the moon. Blocks of smokeless, slow-burning charcoal made from pressed olive pits. And the tea set itself, a celadon pot so fine it seems to glow from within, and a set of porcelain cups, each one no thicker than an eggshell. You begin by examining the water. It is not mere water from a well. It is delivered to the palace each morning in sealed clay jugs sourced from a specific spring in the western hills, a place where morning dew is said to gather with exceptional purity. You hold a ladleful up to the candlelight, checking for any imperfections. The water must be as clear as your own conscience is supposed to be. Next, you manage the fire. You coax the charcoal to life, fanning it gently until it glows a perfect, even red. You place the kettle over it and wait, listening. You do not wait for a boil. That would scald the leaves and create a bitter, disrespectful tea. You wait for the water to begin its quiet song. You watch for the first tiny bubbles, the shrimp eyes, and then the slightly larger ones, the crab eyes. At the precise moment the fish eyes appear just before the water breaks into a rolling boil, you remove it from the flame. The temperature is perfect. Now for the leaves. A tribute from a far southern province, these are the youngest, most tender, silver-tipped leaves, and you handle them as if they were tiny, fragile jewels. Using an ivory scoop, you measure the exact amount prescribed in the ancient texts. You perform a quick rinse with a splash of hot water to awaken their sleeping spirit, then you pour the rest of the water over them. You do not use a timer. You use your own body. You close your eyes and take 7 slow, deep, perfectly even breaths. At the end of the 7th exhalation, the steeping is complete. This is the moment of truth. You pour the pale, fragrant liquid into a warmed cup and proceed to the monarch's chambers. You kneel, holding the cup before you with both hands, your head bowed. Your eyes are fixed on the pattern of the rug. You do not watch him drink. You listen. You listen for the soft ceramic clink as he lifts the cup. You listen for the quiet sip. Then you wait. An eternity unfolds in the space of 3 seconds. You are listening for one sound, and one sound only, the sigh. If it is a soft, contented ah, then you have succeeded. The cosmos is in balance. Your continued employment is secure. If there is no sigh, or if there is a faint, almost imperceptible frown in the tone of his breathing, you have failed. The punishment is not a loud reprimand. It is far worse. It is a quiet, disappointed look from the chief attendant, followed by an afternoon of quiet and solitary reflection on your technique, a task which, as you have learned from bitter experience, always seems to take place in the hall of ceremonial spittoons, armed with a small cloth and a pot of polish. Today, after the sip, the monarch exhales. A soft, warm, contented sigh fills the room. The tension drains from your body in a silent, invisible wave. You have survived. You retreat from the room, a ghost once more, having successfully navigated the tyranny of tea for another day. Of course, here is the next part of your story, continuing with your education in the subtle and often absurd arts of palace survival. Progress 419 parts complete, now writing parts 5 and 6. The calm ambient sound of the palace continues, a soft and constant hum. Having survived another morning tea service, you are granted a few moments of relative peace. You are tidying the monarch's study, replacing a burnt-out candle, when a presence materializes beside you without a sound. It is Old Way, a man so ancient he seems less a person and more a permanent fixture of the palace, as timeless and cracked as old porcelain. His movements are slow, but his eyes are unsettlingly quick, missing nothing. He taught you how to walk silently. Now he continues your education in how to see. He says nothing, merely gesturing with a slight tilt of his chin towards the incense burner. You notice it then. A faint, unfamiliar scent lingers beneath the usual sandalwood. It is the sharp, clean aroma of a particular type of rare cedar, an incense known to be a favorite of a certain ambitious young general in the outer court. An incense that has no business being burned in the study of a pacifist court scholar who had an audience with the monarch just an hour ago. Wee looks at you, his face a blank mask. The ink brush, he whispers, his voice like the rustle of dry paper, has begun to smell of the sword scabbard. You continue polishing the candle holder, your expression unchanged, giving no sign that you have understood. Wee allows a small, mirthless smile to touch his lips. When a scholar begins to admire the scent of a soldier, he continues, it means he is either very brave or very foolish. And there are very few brave scholars left in this city. He pats your shoulder gently, a rare gesture of something. Remember the most important lesson, little vase. A good vase is sturdy, decorative, and above all hollow. It holds whatever is put into it, beautiful or poisonous, and it never ever speaks. He shuffles away, leaving you to ponder his words. You have just been given a vital piece of intelligence. A new, unlikely, and potentially dangerous alliance is forming. You file the information away into the increasingly crowded library of secrets in your mind. You are becoming a very fine vase indeed. Your growing reputation as a reliable and discreet attendant, a fine vase does not go unnoticed. You are rewarded, not with gold or a promotion, but with a new temporary and deeply prestigious assignment. You are to assist in the daily care of Snowdrift, the beloved white cat of the noble consort Liu. You quickly learn that Snowdrift is not merely a pet. She is a political entity. She holds the official court rank of feline of the 4th rank, and she has her own dedicated attendant, a terrified young eunuch named Bao. You are now the assistant to the cat's attendant. Your life has taken a wonderfully strange turn. The daily routine for Snowdrift makes the monarch's tea service look like a casual affair. Her breakfast consists of a single small fish steamed with ginger, which you must personally debone using a set of ivory tweezers. This is served on a celadon dish alongside a bowl of goat's milk, which must be warmed to the precise temperature of, and you are not making this up, a mother cat's tongue. You must then stand at a respectful distance and observe her dining experience, making notes on her appetite and general disposition. Your main conflict arises during the mandatory afternoon grooming session. Snowdrift possesses a magnificent coat of long white fur that must be brushed for 1 hour every day. This is your job. The battle of wills that ensues is a silent, epic drama. You will approach with the softest brush made of rabbit fur. Snowdrift will watch you, her blue eyes filled with an ancient regal indifference. For a few minutes, she will allow you to brush her, even emitting a low rumbling purr that vibrates through the brush handle and up your arm. This is a trap. Lulled into a false sense of security, you will continue your work only for her to decide with no warning whatsoever that the session is over. She will whip her head around and sink her needle-sharp teeth into the fleshy part of your hand. Your training, your very instinct for survival screams at you not to react. You cannot flinch. You cannot cry out. You must simply pause, wait for her to release you, and then say in your calmest, most flute-like voice, "Your ladyship seems playful today." You will then attempt to resume brushing, trying to ignore the small crimson beads of blood welling up on your skin. The true test comes when the noble consort herself visits. You are required to present the cat to her. You hold the fluffy, purring creature in your arms as the consort tickles her under the chin. "Oh, my precious Snowdrift," she coos. "You are the sweetest, most gentle creature in all the world." At that exact moment, Snowdrift, likely sensing the sheer crushing irony of the situation, decides to stretch. She extends the claws on her back paws, digging them deep into the fine silk of your uniform, and more importantly, the sensitive skin beneath. Your entire body tenses. A single hot tear of pure, unadulterated pain rolls down your cheek. You hold your serene, pleasant expression, a perfect mask of placid adoration. The consort notices your tear. "Ah," she says, smiling warmly at you. "You see, my little Snowdrift inspires such deep emotion in all who meet her. You are a good boy to appreciate her so." You bow your head in humble agreement, the claws digging ever deeper. It is in this moment you learn the most fundamental truth of the Forbidden City. Power is not determined by intelligence or strength or even species. It is determined entirely by who is held in the highest esteem by the monarch and his favorites. And in this room at this moment, you are outranked by a cat. Your life settles into a rhythm, a strange and steady beat, composed of silent steps, rustling silk, and the quiet anxieties of the court. You become adept at navigating the silent currents of power, at pleasing imperious cats, and at producing the perfect high-pitched bird call on demand. You are by all accounts excelling at your job. But there are moments when the carefully constructed walls of your new reality are breached by the most unexpected of invaders, a simple memory. One afternoon, you are sent on an errand to the vast sprawling kitchens that serve the thousands of palace guardsmaids and other lower-level staff. It is a world away from the refined, delicate kitchens that prepare the monarch's food. This place is a chaotic symphony of crashing pots, shouting cooks, and billowing steam. And it is filled with smells you have not encountered in years. The rich, earthy smell of roasting garlic, the sharp tang of pickling vegetables, and the warm, comforting scent of thousands of simple wheat buns steaming in giant bamboo baskets. That scent, the humble, honest smell of steaming bread, stops you in your tracks. It bypasses your training, your discipline, your carefully constructed indifference, and plunges you headfirst into a memory so vivid it makes you dizzy. You are no longer standing on the cold stone floor of the imperial kitchen. You are a small boy again, sitting at a rough wooden table in a tiny sun-drenched room. Your legs are too short to reach the floor. The air is warm and smells of your mother's cooking. You can hear her humming a simple off-key folk song as she works. She places a steaming bun in your hand. It is heavy and warm, and when you bite into it, it is filled with savory, juicy pork and mushrooms. It is the most delicious thing you have ever tasted. Your mind, with the jarring quickness of a waking dream, flashes to a memory from earlier that morning. You were in the pristine Imperial Medical Hall, where you had to perform one of your most unpleasant duties, tasting a new health tonic for poison before it was served to the monarch. The tonic, developed by the best physicians in the land to promote digestive harmony, was a clear, lukewarm liquid served in a jade cup. It had no discernible scent, and it tasted vaguely of boiled disappointment, and the color beige. You stand there frozen in the chaotic kitchen, caught between two worlds. You think of the rich, savory, life-giving bun from your childhood. You think of the bland, life-preserving broth of the palace, and you come to a quiet, profound conclusion. At least in your old village, the things that might have potentially killed you also had the good grace to taste wonderful. A sharp shout from a head cook asking what you are dawdling for shatters the memory. You bow your head, murmur an apology, and hurry on your way, the phantom taste of your mother's cooking a sweet, sad ghost on your tongue. The seasons continue their slow, inexorable turn. The palace announces a new project. A small decorative pavilion is to be built in a quiet corner of the gardens. This requires the unthinkable outsiders. A team of carpenters is granted temporary access to the inner court, and you are assigned the tedious task of supervising them. Your job is to sit in a nearby pavilion and simply watch a silent guardian, ensuring these rough common men do not stray from their designated work site. You dislike this duty. The men are loud. Their hammering and sawing echoes through the tranquil gardens, an assault on the cultivated silence. They bring with them the smell of sweat and raw wood, scents too coarse for this refined world. From your shaded vantage point, you watch them with a cool detachment, a zookeeper observing a strange and unruly species. The midday bell rings, signaling the lunch break. The cacophony of construction ceases. The men sit down in the shade, laughing and talking loudly as they unwrap their simple meals. Your gaze settles on one of them, a young, broad-shouldered man, his face open and honest. He eats his rice cake and then reaches into his tunic and pulls out a small, crudely carved wooden bird. He turns it over in his rough, calloused hands, and a wide, genuine, uncomplicated smile lights up his entire face. It is a smile of pure, unadulterated joy. You watch him, this simple man, grinning at a piece of wood, and you try to remember the last time you smiled a genuine smile of pure relief and happiness. The memory comes to you easily. It was just yesterday morning. The head physician had emerged from his daily private audience with the monarch, an audience which you know involves a close and scholarly examination of the imperial bowel movements. The physician had found you in the hall and announced with grave satisfaction that the monarch's internal humors were harmoniously balanced, and the resulting tribute was of a most auspicious color and consistency. You had smiled then, a deep, soul-felt smile of pure, unburdened relief. An inauspicious report would have meant a full day of brewing foul-smelling digestive assistance teas, a process that made the entire west wing of the palace smell like boiled cabbage. You look at the carpenter beaming at a small toy he has made for his child. You think of yourself beaming at the news of a healthy royal stool. And in the quiet, sun-dappled garden, you ask yourself a very serious question. In the grand, silent, and often ridiculous theater of the world, who is the real winner here? The man whose happiness comes from a simple act of fatherly love, or the man whose happiness depends entirely on the regularity of a god-king's intestines? The bell rings again, ending the break. The carpenter carefully puts his toy away and picks up his hammer. You remain seated, a perfect, serene statue of imperial oversight. But for the first time, you feel a crack in your calm composure. It is not sadness. It is not jealousy. It is the dizzying, terrifying, and quietly hilarious realization of just how profoundly absurd your new life truly is. Your life continues its strange, rhythmic dance. You perfect your bird call. You survive your shifts as a feline attendant. You become an undisputed master of the silent, non-judgmental nod. You are becoming a part of the palace's machinery. And then one day, the machine breaks. It happens at midday. You are crossing the great central courtyard when the enormous water clock, a magnificent and complex marvel of engineering and artistry, chimes the hour of the horse. 12 bronze spheres drop from a dragon's mouth onto a series of gongs, producing a deep, resonant chime that echoes across the entire city. And then, silence. A profound, unnerving silence. The familiar, gentle sounds that always follow the chime, the creak of the water wheel, the splash of the reset mechanism, the slow, rhythmic drip, drip, drip of time itself are absent. The great clock has stopped. The reaction is immediate, though entirely silent. A quiet, formal, and deeply bureaucratic panic ripples through the court. Attendants scurry their silk slippers, whispering urgently against the stone. Officials gather in small, anxious clumps, murmuring to one another behind their long sleeves. A disruption to the imperial schedule is a disruption to the harmony of the cosmos itself. You expect a team of skilled engineers to be summoned men with tools and diagrams. Instead, the monarch in his infinite wisdom declares that this is not a mechanical failure, but a metaphysical event. He convenes the committee for the solemn investigation of temporal stagnation. It is comprised of the 3 most senior court astronomers, 2 renowned philosophers, and a poet famous for his 700-stanza epic about the loneliness of the moon. Their task is not to fix the clock. It is to debate its meaning. And your task? As a junior attendant known for his patience and ability to remain still for long periods, you are given a new temporary title: Official Observer of the Ceased Timepiece. Your duty is to sit on a silk cushion, a respectful distance from the silent clock, and on the hour. An hour you must now guess by the position of the sun, write a detailed report on its condition. You take your post armed with a brush, a pot of ink, and a stack of fine rice paper. You begin your crucial work. Your first report reads, "The hour of the sheep." The great water wheel remains motionless. The bronze dragon's mouth hangs open, its neck sphere held in waiting. The water in the main basin is still. The clock's state of profound and consistent brokenness continues. An hour later, you write, "The hour of the monkey." A small sparrow landed upon the celestial globe, looked at me, chirped twice, and flew away. The sparrow appeared to have no discernible opinion on the nature of temporal stagnation. The clock, for its part, remains steadfastly and impressively broken. For 2 full days, this is your life. You watch a clock that does nothing while nearby the most brilliant minds of the empire debate. You can hear the faint murmur of their arguments. Does time truly cease if we are still aware of its passing? Perhaps the clock has not stopped, but has instead achieved a state of perfect, timeless harmony. I believe this relates to a dream the monarch had last year concerning a tortoise. On the 3rd day, while the committee is at lunch, a man in a dirty tunic arrives with a hammer and a long piece of wire. He bangs on something inside the clock for about 10 minutes, pulls out a dead bird that had gotten stuck in the main gear, and the clock shudders back to life with a loud groan. He packs his tools and leaves. The committee later releases a 200-page report concluding that the temporary celestial imbalance was resolved through the sheer force of the monarch's virtuous spirit. You are quietly commended for your diligent and insightful reports. The clock is fixed. Time resumes its orderly march, and the memory of the incident fades into the fabric of palace life. The seasons continue their own more reliable rhythm. The oppressive heat of late summer gives way to the crisp, cool air of autumn. The leaves on the ginkgo trees turn a brilliant, shocking yellow before cascading to the ground. And then comes the evening when the air grows still and heavy, and a familiar metallic taste fills your mouth. You are on night duty, walking along an open-air veranda when you see the first flake of snow, then another, then 1,000. Your first thought is not of the serene beauty of the magical transformation of the world. Your first thought is a practical, weary sigh, because you know what the snow really means. You watch the delicate flakes land on the dark, polished stones of the walkway. You do not see poetry. You see a treacherous, invisible layer of moisture that will almost certainly cause a pompous, top-heavy court official to slip tomorrow morning, an event that will somehow, through a complex chain of palace logic, be blamed on the attendant on duty the night before. You see the white flakes beginning to gather on the ornate roofs, and you don't think of a pure white blanket. You think of the Imperial Winter Protocols, an 18-scroll document that will be enacted at sunrise. It contains new rules for everything: the mandatory increase in the thickness of the monarch's winter socks, a matter of surprisingly intense debate. The correct ceremonially approved method for clearing ice from a walkway, only with brooms made from the wood of the southern weeping willow, and the precise number of coals to be allotted to each chamber based on the occupant's rank. Your life, already a web of rules, is about to get significantly more complicated. The beauty of the scene is undeniable, you suppose. The world is becoming hushed, soft, and pure. But it's difficult to fully appreciate the magical ambiance when you know that from tomorrow you will have to wear 3 extra layers of padded silk beneath your robes, making you move with the stiff, clumsy grace of a well-dressed dumpling. And you know from years of experience that the deep, penetrating cold of the palace will still find a way to creep into your bones no matter how many layers you wear. You pull your own robe a little tighter and continue your patrol. You look out over the silent, dreamlike landscape of the Forbidden City as it is washed clean by the falling snow. It is peaceful. It is perfect. And your final thought before turning down the next corridor is a simple, practical prayer. I really hope they remembered to put extra sand on the steps by the Hall of Harmonious Administration. The winter deepens. Life in the Forbidden City becomes a series of quiet indoor struggles. The struggle to stay warm, the struggle to keep the braziers lit with the precisely allotted amount of charcoal, and your own personal struggle to avoid any further interactions with the noble consort's malevolent cat Snowdrift. You have become quite adept at making yourself scarce whenever you see her personal attendants approaching. You are a professional after all, and professional development means learning to avoid known workplace hazards. It is during this period of cold and quiet that your career takes an unwelcome and terrifying new turn. You receive an unwanted promotion. You are promoted from a simple observer of courtly absurdity to an active, unwilling participant. The promotion arrives late one night. You are on duty in a cold, drafty corridor near the Empress's private wing. It is a miserable post, but a simple one. You are to stand, look decorative, and try to prevent your own teeth from chattering. Suddenly, you hear voices from behind the thick, silk-draped doors of her chambers. They are hushed, but the anger within them is as sharp and cold as an icicle. It is the Empress and her brother, the General. Your training, your every instinct tells you to hear nothing. You are a vase. You are a pillar. You are a decorative screen. But their words cut through your practiced indifference. Her influence grows like a fever. The Empress hisses, her voice a razor blade wrapped in silk. The monarch is besotted. He speaks of a spring tour to the south. With her, a fever can be broken. The general growls in response. A winter chill is common, a tragic but natural occurrence. Your blood runs cold. You know exactly who they are talking about. The songbird, the monarch's young favored consort. Your former colleague in the bizarre world of avian serenades. It must be clean, the Empress commands. It must seem like the will of heaven. The physicians already fret about her delicate constitution. A special tea, the general murmurs. A bitter restorative brew to ward off the winter's ills. A brew that lingers. It will seem a gentle fading. No one will question it. And by the time the snow melts, the monarch's grief will have cooled, and this entire matter will be a forgotten dream. You stand frozen in the hallway, the blood roaring in your ears. This isn't the abstract gossip Wei warned you about. This isn't a struggle for favor involving pampered cats. This is a cold, calculated plot to commit murder. And you are the only one who has heard it. The knowledge floods your mind, a toxic black tide. In that moment, you realize you have just been unwillingly enrolled in a new subscription service. Welcome to Treason Monthly. The circulation is very exclusive and the cancellation policy is famously terminal. Your first thought is not one of heroics. It is a quiet, profound, and deeply weary internal sigh. Oh, wonderful, you think, a wave of pure, unadulterated annoyance washing over your terror. A murder plot. Just what my schedule needed. You treat the horrifying secret as you have been trained to treat everything as a new, impossibly difficult, and deeply undesirable work assignment that has been dropped onto your desk without your consent. For the next few days, you carry this new assignment with you everywhere you go. It is a heavy, invisible weight on your shoulders. You perform your duties with flawless precision, but your mind is elsewhere, constantly replaying the whispered conversation, trying to find an angle, a loophole, a way out that doesn't exist. The world which had seemed merely absurd now seems actively hostile. It is in this state of high silent alert that you are summoned to the monarch's private study. This is a rare honor. Your task is simple and meditative: to grind the ink for him while he practices his calligraphy. You enter the serene, quiet room. The only sounds are the whisper of the monarch's silk robes as he moves and the soft, rhythmic grinding sound of the inkstone as you begin your work. You add water, drop by drop, moving the solid ink stick in slow, patient circles, creating a pool of rich, black, fragrant ink. The repetitive motion is usually calming, but today it does nothing to soothe the frantic buzzing in your mind. The monarch is in a philosophical mood. He paints a single elegant character on a scroll, trust, and then pauses studying it. He turns his head slightly, not to look at you, but simply to project his voice into the room. It is a strange and difficult thing, is it not? He muses to the air. How the most beautiful, fragile blossom can sometimes grow from the most bitter and twisted root. You freeze for a fraction of a second. Is he testing you? Does he know something? Your mind screams, but your hands continue their slow, steady grinding. He then turns his gaze toward you, though it feels as though he is looking straight through you at the wall behind. He asks you a question. Tell me, attendant. What is more difficult for a man to truly grasp: the wind in his hand or the truth in another's heart? This is it. A test. The silence stretches. Your mind is a panicked whirl of the empress, the general, the bitter tea, the songbird. You must give the perfect answer. An answer that is wise, but not too wise. Humble, but not servile. An answer that says absolutely nothing at all. You bow your head. Your wisdom is a great mountain that touches the heavens. August Lord, you say, your voice a calm, steady flute. My understanding is but a humble stream at its base. The wind and the heart are both profound mysteries far beyond my knowing. It is a beautiful sentence. It is a masterpiece of respectful non-commitment. It is the verbal equivalent of a perfectly polished vase. The monarch nods slowly, a faint, satisfied smile on his face. He is not pleased with your answer. He is pleased with his own deep philosophical question. He has used you as a mirror to reflect his own profundity back at himself. He turns back to his scroll, dips his brush in the ink you have made, and the moment is over. He has already forgotten you are there. You continue your slow, circular grinding, your heart still pounding, and you have a moment of perfect crystalline clarity. He wasn't talking to you. He was talking to the lamp, to the inkstone, to a decorative, breathing piece of furniture capable of producing vaguely agreeable sounds. In that moment, you have achieved the absolute pinnacle of your profession. You have become a useful, inanimate object. And the loneliness of that success, the sheer crushing weight of your own perfect invisibility, is colder and heavier than any winter snow. You carry the heavy secret of the murder plot like a physical stone in your gut. It is your constant companion. During your waking hours, it is a low, anxious hum at the back of your mind. At night, it blossoms into vivid, terrifying dreams. You perform your duties on a knife's edge of high alert, observing every shadow, interpreting every whispered word, convinced that the bitter winter tea could be served at any moment. Your world, once merely absurd, has become a place of quiet, hidden menace. It is in this state of heightened tension that the unthinkable happens. A true crisis descends upon the palace. It begins one morning in the monarch's dressing chambers. You are holding a tray of jade hairpins, your posture perfect, your expression a placid mask. The monarch, while reaching for a robe, turns his head slightly and lets out a small, unassuming, almost delicate sound. Achoo. The effect is instantaneous and profound. The chief attendant, who was in the middle of speaking, freezes with his mouth still open. The two junior attendants helping with the robes exchange a look of pure, unadulterated panic. The single tiny sneeze echoes in the vast, silent chamber like a crack of thunder, a fissure appearing in the flawless jade of the imperial routine. The monarch sniffles once quietly, and with that single wet sound, a state of national emergency is unofficially declared. Within the hour, the Imperial College of Physicians descends. They arrive in a flock of dark silk robes, a gaggle of the most esteemed medical minds in the empire, all stroking their long, thin beards and murmuring in hushed, deeply important tones. They do not, of course, touch the monarch. That would be unthinkable. Instead, they observe him from a respectful distance. They observe the color of his tongue, They inquire at length about the quality of his sleep. They debate the celestial portents of the sneeze itself. After a lengthy and solemn consultation, they reach a unanimous diagnosis. The Son of Heaven, the axis of the world, has a minor disharmony of the lung key, which is manifesting as a common winter chill. He has a cold. This diagnosis triggers a bureaucratic response worthy of a military invasion. The monarch is to be confined to his chambers for quiet contemplation and restorative rest. A phrase you know means he will be incredibly bored and irritable. The imperial kitchens are thrown into chaos as dozens of competing recipes for chi-balancing broths and harmony-restoring soups are submitted by various court factions, each one hoping their concoction will be the one to cure him, thus earning immense favor. And your role in this grand crisis, you with your proven skill in brewing things are assigned to the medical preparation chamber. You are now the lead technician in the war against the imperial sniffle. Your life becomes a blur of bizarre and foul-smelling tasks. The physicians, unable to agree on a single course of treatment, decide to throw everything at the problem at once. Your workstation becomes a laboratory of alchemical madness. One senior physician prescribes a tea made from powdered deer antler and dried ginseng. Another insists on a broth of a rare black fungus that grows only on the north side of thousand-year-old trees harvested under a full moon. A third, a particularly ancient master whose eyes seem to be focused on a different century, provides you with a small leather pouch containing what looks suspiciously like dried lizard tails and instructs you to create a fire-dampening infusion. As the monarch's poison taster, you have the distinct honor of sampling each of these creations before they are sent to the imperial bedchamber. You discover that the deer antler tea tastes like swallowing a spoonful of chalky dust. The black fungus broth has the flavor and aroma of a damp cellar floor. And the lizard tail infusion. Well, you decide it is best for your own sanity not to think too closely about that one. You find yourself in the strange position of hoping none of them are actually poison, because you are not entirely sure you would prefer a quick death to having to drink a full cup of any of them. Worse than the taste is the talk. You are a captive audience to the physician's endless scholarly debates. They do not argue about symptoms or dosages. They argue about metaphysics. The sneeze was directed toward the northeast, one master declares, pointing a long bony finger. This clearly indicates a weakness in the element of wood aggravated by a hostile metal energy. Nonsense, another retorts. You are ignoring the sound. The pitch of the initial exhalation was closer to a B-flat, which is the tonal signifier of the lungs. The issue is purely an internal disharmony of metal with no wood involvement whatsoever. You stand there patiently grinding a new batch of fungi, listening to these brilliant men argue about the elemental properties of a sniffle. Your mind, still screaming with the secret of the actual poison plot against the young consort, can barely process the sheer layered absurdity of it all. You live in a world where a real murder is a quiet whisper, but a common cold is a full-blown philosophical crisis, debated by the greatest minds of the generation. After 3 days of this focused, high-level insanity, the monarch wakes up, stretches, and declares he is bored of being sick and feels perfectly fine. He dismisses the physicians and goes for a walk in the snow-covered garden. The crisis is over. The physicians all bow deeply to each other, congratulating themselves on their collaborative and ultimately successful treatment. They immediately begin writing lengthy, self-congratulatory scrolls on their great victory over the great winter disharmony of 25. You are left alone in the fragrant, messy chamber, tasked with cleaning the dozens of pots and disposing of the leftover lizard tails. Your nerves are frayed not from worry over the monarch's health, but from the sheer soul-crushing exhaustion of participating in 3 days of concentrated high-stakes nonsense. The experience does nothing to relieve the weight of the real secret you carry. It only makes the cage of your ridiculous life feel more surreal and inescapable than ever. The crisis of the monarch's great winter cold passes, but the chill in the court does not. The secret you carry about the plot against the young consort remains a hot, heavy stone in your gut. You hear the whispers in the corridors. The songbird remains in her secluded pavilion, recovering from her illness. No one has seen her in weeks. Her name is mentioned less and less. In the Forbidden City, to be unseen and unmentioned is a form of death. You also hear whispers about your old mentor, Wei. His name too is fading from the daily conversation. The whispers say he backed the wrong horse, that his quiet support for the young consort's faction has earned him the Empress's icy, silent wrath. Then the official word comes down, delivered with the usual bureaucratic blandness. Old Wei has been granted a permanent rest from his duties in recognition of his long and faithful service. You know exactly what this euphemism means. It is the palace's retirement plan. Out of a sense of loyalty that feels both foolish and dangerous, you decide to visit him. You are not summoned. You go of your own accord, a small act of defiance against the palace's culture of forgetting. You make your way to the northernmost corner of the city, a grim and neglected warren of small cold rooms, where the old and useless attendants are sent to live out their final days. The air here is different, heavy with the smell of herbal poultices, old age, and a quiet, lingering despair. You find Wei's room. It is small, damp, and contains nothing but a hard cot and a rickety table. The man lying on the cot is a mere shadow of the sharp, cynical survivor you knew. He is a fragile collection of bones lost in a thin gray blanket. The shrewd, intelligent light in his eyes has dimmed to a faint, flickering ember. He looks at you as you enter, and for a moment, a flicker of his old self returns. You kneel by his cot, not knowing what to say. You perform a small act of service, dipping a cloth in a bowl of cool water and gently wiping his brow. It feels strange to be the one providing the care. He is too weak to speak much, his breath a shallow, rattling sound in his chest. You sit with him in silence for a long time, the only sound this quiet, rhythmic struggle for air. After a while, his eyes open fully, and they seem to focus on you with a sudden final clarity. He reaches out a dry, skeletal hand and grips your wrist. His touch is surprisingly strong, a last spark of his formidable will. Little vase. He rasps his voice, the sound of dry leaves crumbling. You are a good vase. You listen. You see. You survive. He is seized by a fit of coughing, a deep rattling sound that seems to shake his entire frame. When it subsides, he continues, his voice barely a whisper. Listen to me. This is the last lesson. Do your job. Be invisible. Become the best damn piece of furniture in this entire palace. He squeezes your wrist, his eyes burning with a lifetime of bitter experience. But never hope. Hope is the heaviest stone you can carry in this place. It will drag you to the bottom of the river faster than any poison. Survive. But do not hope for anything more. His hand goes limp, releasing your wrist. He closes his eyes, exhausted by the effort. The final lesson is complete. You stay with him for another hour as his breathing grows shallower and shallower until it finally fades into the great, profound silence of the room. The next day, a formal notice is posted. It does not say that Wei has died. It says that his transfer to the great ancestral bureaucracy has been successfully completed, and his accounts are now closed, because you were one of the few who visited him. At the end, you are tasked with clearing his room. The task is swift. There is little to clear: a few sets of worn robes, a pair of patched silk slippers, a cracked tea bowl. His earthly possessions barely fill a small wooden box. As you lift the thin mattress from the cot to air it out, you notice a loose floorboard beneath. Prying it up, you find Wei's only secret, his only treasure. It is a small cloth bag. Inside are a dozen hardened, dried sweet buns, a small hoarded cache of sweetness in a life of bitter duty. A final secret act of rebellion. You smile a sad, lonely smile and tuck one of the buns into your own sleeve. You follow the simple, unadorned coffin as it is carried by 2 junior attendants. There is no ceremony. There are no priests, no mourners. He is not being taken to an ancestral tomb, but to an unmarked plot of land outside the northern walls, a place for the forgotten, the erased. As you watch the plain wooden box disappear through a small, rarely used service gate, you see your own future laid out before you with stark, chilling clarity. This is it. This is the retirement plan. This is the final reward for 50 years of perfect silent service, of carrying the Empire's secrets, of surviving every plot and purge. To be disposed of quietly, to be mourned by no one, to have your name and your life utterly and completely erased from the world. You feel a coldness spread through your chest that has nothing to do with the winter air. It is the cold of absolute certainty, the cold of seeing the very end of your own long, silent, and lonely road. The death of your mentor Wei leaves a hollow space in your world. His final bitter lesson, survive but do not hope, echoes in your mind, a constant quiet companion to the dangerous secret about the poison plot you still carry. You feel a new cold resolve hardening within you. It is not hope, it is something else. It is a quiet, simmering anger against the petty, pompous officials who wield their minor authority like a weapon, and a desire to do anything that is purely for yourself. You have been a perfect hollow vase for years. Now you feel the urge to cultivate a single thorny rose inside it. The opportunity presents itself in the most mundane of places, the great Imperial Library. It is one of your regular posts, a place of profound silence and the intoxicating smell of old paper and dry ink. Your duty here is to fetch and reshelf scrolls for the court scholars. It is usually a peaceful meditative task. But your peace is shattered by the arrival of head scholar Feng. Feng is a man whose intellectual brilliance is matched only by his staggering arrogance. He is known for his beautiful calligraphy, his encyclopedic knowledge of ancient poetry, and his deeply held belief that eunuchs are a lower form of life, barely more intelligent than the brushes they carry. He treats you not like a person, but like a utensil, a tool to be used and discarded. Today, he is in a particularly foul mood. You bring him a requested scroll, bowing low. He snatches it from your hands and unrolls it, his eyes scanning the text. He lets out an exasperated sigh. Witless utensil. He sneers, his voice cutting through the sacred silence of the library. I asked for the treatise on the southern river trade from the early part of the dynasty. This is from the late part. Are the characters too complex for your simple mind? Is the silk too fine for your clumsy hands? Go and fetch the correct one. Try not to waste any more of my valuable time. He dismisses you with a wave of his hand, not even bothering to look at you. You stand there for a moment, the insult hanging in the air. The other junior scholars present pretend not to have heard, their eyes suddenly glued to their texts. In that moment of public humiliation, the cold resolve within you crystallizes into a plan. A quiet, beautiful, and deeply petty plan. You bow your head in perfect submission. Forgive my incompetence, esteemed scholar, you murmur. An idea has been planted. A few days later, your idea is given the perfect soil in which to grow. Head scholar Feng, in a fit of aesthetic pique, while surveying a section of the library, turns to you. This entire wall is a chaotic mess, he declares to everyone present. The bindings are all mismatched. It offends the eye and disturbs the scholarly atmosphere. Attendant. You glide forward and bow. Yes, esteemed scholar. I want this entire section reorganized, he commands, a smug look on his face. But not by subject or author or dynasty. That is too pedestrian. You will arrange these scrolls by the precise shade of their silk bindings. I want a perfect harmonious gradient from a pale, creamy ivory to a deep, lustrous beige. An aesthetic triumph. Do you understand, utensil? You look at the thousands of scrolls on the shelves. You look at the arrogant, self-satisfied face of head scholar Feng. And in your mind, a slow, dangerous, and deeply joyful smile begins to form. This is not a punishment. This is a gift. I understand perfectly, esteemed scholar. You say, your voice a model of humble obedience. I will create a symphony of beige. For the next week, the library becomes your sanctuary and your workshop. You dedicate yourself to the task with a level of focus and artistry you normally reserve for the monarch's tea. This is not a chore to be rushed through. It is a masterpiece to be crafted. You carefully remove every scroll from the shelves, laying them out on the long reading tables. You become an artist, a connoisseur of the subtle spectrum of off-white. You squint, holding scrolls up to the light from the latticed windows, comparing the subtle differences between ivory, eggshell, parchment, old bone sand, and almond. You arrange them with painstaking precision. A scroll containing a critical analysis of 3rd century siege warfare is placed next to a volume of romantic poetry from the 11th century simply because their silk bindings were both a near-perfect shade of pale cream. A priceless medical text is nestled between a history of agriculture and a children's fable, united by their shared, lustrous beige hue. The result is breathtaking. The entire wall of shelves now flows in a seamless, beautiful, and utterly useless gradient of color. It is an aesthetic triumph, and it is an organizational catastrophe. When the work is complete, you summon head scholar Feng for his inspection. He walks along the shelves, a smug smile on his face, running his hand along the perfectly ordered scrolls. "Ah," he says, his voice full of self-congratulation. "You see, when an intelligent mind applies itself to a problem, the result is true harmony. Even a simple tool can be made to produce a beautiful result. You have done adequately." He sweeps out of the library, leaving you with the quiet satisfaction of a job perfectly done. The true victory comes 2 days later. You are not in the library, but the whispers reach you as they always do. Head scholar Feng had been tasked by the monarch himself with producing an urgent report on historical river irrigation techniques. He had gone to the library to find the necessary treatises, and he had found nothing. He spent the entire day in a state of frantic rising panic, desperately trying to remember if the scroll of 1,000 waterways was bound in a sand or almond-colored silk. He could not find a single one of the texts he needed. He was late with his report and was publicly and very coldly reprimanded by the monarch for his inefficiency. When you hear this news, you are alone polishing a brass incense burner, and you smile. It is not the serene professional smile of an attendant. It is a small, secret, and deeply joyful smile that is all your own. You broke no rules. You performed your duty to the letter. You were the perfect, obedient utensil. You simply followed a foolish order to its most logical, absurd conclusion. It is a tiny, invisible victory in a life of silent submission. It is a single thorny rose blooming just for you in the hollow of the vase. The memory of your small, secret victory in the library provides a quiet inner warmth that helps you through the rest of the long winter. You performed your duties, you carried your dangerous secrets, but you now possessed something new, the knowledge that you were not entirely powerless. You were a master of the rules, and that mastery gave you a tiny protected space in which to exist. You perfect your invisibility, honing it into a true art form. You move through the grand halls and secluded gardens as a whisper, a shadow, a thought. You have, you believe, finally achieved the state of being a perfect, living ghost. And then comes the night of the Lantern Festival. The oppressive cold of winter has long since given way to the warm, fragrant evenings of late summer. The entire Forbidden City, usually so severe and orderly, is transformed for one night into a dreamscape. Thousands of lanterns are hung from every eave and every tree branch. They are fashioned in the shapes of dragons, phoenixes, fish, and lotus blossoms, each one containing a single soft flame. They cast a warm golden flickering glow over the whole palace, softening the hard edges of the architecture and painting the night in hues of amber and honey. The air is thick with the scent of night-blooming jasmine, and from a distant pavilion you can hear the gentle melodic strains of a guzheng being played. It is a night of rare and sanctioned magic. Your duty, naturally, is to be a guardian of that magic, which requires you to be completely invisible. You are stationed in the deep shadows beneath a weeping willow tree near the edge of a large placid lake. In your hands you hold a single unlit spare lantern and a long thin taper. If any of the lanterns in your designated area should flicker and die, you are to glide out, light the replacement, and hang it all without being noticed. You are a silent, nameless stagehand for the grand theater of the festival. You watch the imperial family from your hiding place. The monarch, the empress, the various consorts and princes all stroll along the lake's edge, their magnificent silk robes shimmering in the golden light. They are beautiful ethereal figures like gods enjoying their own private heaven. You feel 1,000,000 miles away from them, a creature of the shadows, and you are perfectly content with that. You have mastered this. Then you notice a small figure break away from the main group. It is a very young girl, a minor princess, from a distant branch of the family, perhaps only 5 or 6 years old. She is not one of the important ones. She is dressed in fine clothes, but she has the universal untamed curiosity of any small child. Chasing a firefly, she toddles away from her mother and wanders unwittingly directly towards the deep shadow where you stand. You freeze. You hold your breath. This is the ultimate test of your art. You are a statue. You are a part of the tree. You are nothing. The little girl stops a few feet away from you. The firefly has vanished. Her face, illuminated by the soft glow of a nearby lotus lantern, is a picture of innocent wonder. And then she sees you. Her head tilts. She is not afraid. She is simply curious. Her mother, noticing her absence, hurries over a hushed, anxious apology already on her lips. Bow bow, come away, do not disturb. But before she can finish, the little princess raises a tiny finger and points directly at you. Her voice high and clear as a tiny bell cuts through the gentle murmur of the festival. Mama! She asks, her voice full of genuine confusion. Who is that sad man standing all alone in the dark? For the first time in decades, you are truly completely seen. The word hangs in the air. Sad. Man. Not attendant. Not utensil. Not a shadow. A sad man. A lightning bolt of pure, unadulterated panic flashes through you. Your invisibility, your armor, your entire survival strategy has been shattered by the simple, honest observation of a child. You expect guards to rush over you, expect to be reprimanded, to be punished for the crime of being noticed. But what follows the panic is a different emotion entirely. It is a strange, unfamiliar, and intensely painful flicker of warmth in the cold, hollow space of your chest. The child did not see a eunuch. She saw a human being. She saw your loneliness, a truth so profound and so deeply buried that you barely acknowledge it yourself. For one terrifying, heartbreaking moment, you are not a ghost. You are real. The mother, mortified, quickly scoops the child into her arms, bowing apologetically in your general direction, before scurrying back to the safety of the main party. The moment is over. You are alone again in the shadows of the willow tree, your heart hammering against your ribs. Nothing has happened, and yet everything has changed. Your perfect protective shield of invisibility now feels for the first time less like a suit of armor and more like a lonely, self-imposed prison. The child's innocent words were more piercing than any insult from a scholar, more powerful than any edict from the monarch. They have reminded you of the humanity you have worked so hard to forget. The memory of the little princess and her innocent, piercing question stays with you. It doesn't fade. It forces you to reevaluate the quiet, fatalistic philosophy you inherited from Wei. His final lesson was to survive, but not to hope. But the child's question introduced a new idea. If you are to be a man alone in the dark, what can you do to make the darkness more bearable? You accept with a newfound sense of peace that the great joys of the world, the love of a family, the freedom to choose your own path, the legacy of a child are not for you. That is a door that closed a long, long time ago. To continue to bang on it is a form of madness. So you decide to stop banging. You turn away from the great closed door, and you begin to notice the small unlocked windows. You begin a new quiet practice, the conscious cultivation of small, private, and often ironic joys. You have access to the finest tribute teas in the empire. For years, brewing them has been a high-stakes, nerve-shredding performance. Now, late at night in the privacy of your own small room, you learn to brew a single perfect cup just for yourself. You use a small cracked bowl that you saved from the discard pile. You heat the water over your own small brazier. You inhale the fragrant steam. And you taste the tea, not for poison, not for the monarch's approval, but for its own complex, beautiful flavor. You savor it. It is a small, quiet act of luxury that is entirely your own. You and Snowdrift, the imperious white cat, reach a form of understanding. You realize her hostile behavior is born of the same thing as your own quiet discipline, a deep and abiding boredom. You discover through careful experimentation the exact spot beneath her chin that when scratched will make her purr with the force of a tiny thunderstorm. You start bringing her small forbidden treats, a sliver of fish stolen from the kitchens, a drop of cream. In return, she stops viewing your hand as a practice dummy for her claws. You become quiet companions in the lonely afternoons, a eunuch and a cat, two creatures who understand what it means to live in a gilded cage, finding a strange, silent comfort in each other's company. You begin to take a new pride in your work. You no longer see your invisibility as just a survival tactic. You elevate it to an art form. You take a secret craftsman's pleasure in your ability to anticipate the monarch's every need. You can glide into his chamber, replace the charcoal in his brazier, trim the wick on his lamp, and glide out again, all while he is reading a scroll without him ever consciously registering your presence. You become the god of small, unnoticed details. Your joy is no longer in petty rebellion, but in achieving a secret monastic perfection in your strange and silent craft. One evening, you take out the hardened, stale sweet bun you saved from Way's secret stash. You dip it into your own cup of hot water to soften it. As you eat the simple, slightly sweet paste, you feel a quiet connection to your old mentor. He told you not to hope, and perhaps he was right. But he never told you not to find your own small, defiant pleasures. This is not the grand happiness of the outside world. It is a much smaller, quieter, and more resilient thing. It is the contentment you build for yourself from the small leftover scraps of a life. It is the joy of a vase that has learned to appreciate the single tiny flower it is allowed to hold. The years pass as they always do in the Forbidden City, slowly and all at once. The seasons turn, the snows come and go, the faces in the court change. Young consorts become powerful dowagers. Ambitious princes become solemn emperors. You serve them all. You are a constant, a quiet fixture in a world of turmoil. Your hair turns from black to gray and then to the color of the winter snow itself. You are an old man now. You sit in your simple room, which is now slightly larger, a privilege of your senior rank. You look out the window at the familiar curve of a pavilion roof. You are looking back not with regret, but with a sense of immense quiet wonder at the long, strange river of your life. You have carried so many secrets that they have become a part of you. You think of the bitter winter tea. The young consort, the songbird, was never seen again. She faded from the court records, another ghost in a city of ghosts. You chose survival, and you have survived. You do not feel guilt. Guilt is a luxury for those with simpler choices. You feel only a deep, weary acknowledgement of the impossible situation you were in and the path you had to walk. You think of all the people you have been, the terrified boy from a forgotten village, the perfect invisible machine of an attendant, the petty rebel rearranging the library, the quiet philosopher finding joy in a cup of tea. They are all you. They are all layers of dust settled one on top of the other over a lifetime. You have outlived them all. The emperors, the empresses, the generals. You have watched their grand dramas play out. You have known their secret fears and their hidden desires. You are a library of their lives, but all the books are written in a language that only you can understand, and the library is preparing to close. A profound sense of peace settles over you. Your life was not the one you would have chosen. It was a life lived in a cage. But you learned the dimensions of your cage so perfectly that you were able to find a measure of freedom within it. You witnessed the very center of the world, its beauty, its cruelty, its profound and endless absurdity. You learned to be human in a place that was designed to erase your humanity. You became the quiet, undisputed master of your own small, silent universe. You have held the secrets. You have brewed the tea. You have survived. And you are content at last to let the final silence fill you. You are an old man sitting in a simple, quiet room. Through your window, you can see the last golden light of the setting sun as it paints the curved eaves of the pavilion opposite you. You have seen this sight thousands of times. It is as familiar to you as your own reflection and as comforting as an old friend. You look down at your hands resting in your lap. They are thin now, the skin like old paper traced with the blue ink of your veins. These hands have performed a lifetime of silent, perfect service. They have brushed the tassels of gods. They have brewed the teas of emperors. They have held the secrets of a dynasty. They have trembled with fear, they have clenched in quiet rebellion, and now finally, they are still. A profound sense of peace settles over you, as soft and as complete as the first winter snow. The long, strange, and often ridiculous story of your life has reached its final pages. You have played every part you were assigned: the terrified boy, the invisible servant, the avian impersonator, the feline's rival, the unwilling keeper of secrets, the quiet craftsman of small personal joys. You have survived it all. You have carried the weight, and now it is time to set it down. You feel the gentle weight of your own eyelids. They feel heavier than any secret you have ever carried, heavier than any sorrow. You do not fight them. For the first time in your life, you simply yield. You lean your head back, and you let them close. The light of the setting sun fades from a warm gold to a soft, deep violet behind your closed eyes. The distant muted sounds of the palace, a closing gate, a far-off call fade with it. Your duties are at last complete. The long day is over, and as your story in that ancient forbidden city comes to its quiet and peaceful close, your story here in the safety and comfort of your own room continues. The you who was a silent attendant can now rest. The you who is lying here now can begin to truly relax. Feel the difference between those two worlds. The silence that surrounded you in the palace was a silence of rules, of fear, of things that could never be spoken. But the silence in your room now is a gift. It is a silence of peace. A silence that belongs only to you. There is nothing to listen for, no danger to anticipate. Let it wrap around you like a soft protective cloak. In that life, every step was measured, every movement was watched. But here in your own bed, you can feel the simple, profound luxury of freedom. You can stretch out your arms, your legs. You can roll over onto your other side, finding the position that is most comfortable. You can adjust your pillow. Feel the gentle weight of your own blanket, a weight of comfort, not of duty. Your room is not a gilded cage. Your walls are not guarded by intrigue and secrets. They are guarded by the deep and gentle stillness of the night. You are safe here. You are protected. Your breath is your own. It does not need to be silent or shallow. Let it be deep and easy. Feel your chest rise and fall in a slow, natural rhythm. With every breath you inhale, draw in peace. With every breath you exhale, let go of the day. You have no tea to brew. You have no tassels to count. You have no secrets to keep. Your only duty now is to rest. The man who was you is at peace. The long, strange, and sometimes funny story is over. His watch has ended. Let his peace become your own. Let go of your thoughts. They are not the schemes of an empire. They are small and light, and they can drift away like lanterns on a gentle breeze. Let the darkness behind your eyes be a soft, warm, and welcoming space. Let the quiet of your room be a gentle friend. Everything is as it should be. All is well. Drift now. Sleep now.